Yes, fantastic. I love the theme that you're going with right now. So important for all of us and specifically women. So I really can dig it as you might say. But yeah, so my name is Karen Bryant, and I am a lifelong learner. I'm also a career educator. I just completed 30 years of service to our local school system, and I am very excited about this new chapter. First of all, I say publicly I'm 27, so I don't know what kind of magic had to happen for 30 years to go by already.
Uh-huh.
But I have to say, I am super excited that God is taking me on a journey right now where I can continue my love of education and development. I was a principal in the end of my career. And in that position, I had the pleasure of working with um, the adults who serve our children and the adults who send us their children, right? The parents.
Right.
And I really have a desire to make sure that people have everything they need to bring out the best of themselves in service to the world. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I really saw the work that I did in schools like that. Because in that sense, of course, the children were our clients,
Mm-hmm.
and children deserve the best. They're just getting here on the planet.
Yeah.
We're the light, we're the guides, right? We're the way. And in order for us to really maximize this gift of life that God has given us, I mean, what a heavy responsibility
Mm-hmm.
that we adults have to make
Absolutely.
sure that, our children get the foundation they need to fulfill their own God-given destiny, right? And so what I saw early on, I've always been, believe it or not, I never thought I'd ever grow up to be a teacher. Like that was not on my bingo card.
Okay.
It's surprising because
Okay.
there's
Okay.
one line in my family where we've got a ton of teachers just down that whole line. But whenever anybody would ask me growing up, because I everybody saw it in me, I'm like, no, I don't want to teach. I don't want to do that. Anyhow,
Uh-huh. Interesting. Okay. I got you.
that's a story for another day how we came back around to what I was supposed to do the whole time. But I have always been, I call myself a professional people person. I've always
Mm-hmm.
um, loved people and have always been in the position to help people see and discover the best in themselves and
Wow.
have the pleasure of watching them grow from level to level to level. And it's a true gift from God. I know it. I know it is a true gift from God. And so what I'm excited about right now in this next chapter post my formal education career is an even deeper opportunity to help individuals come to terms with themselves and soar with the
Wow.
innate skills, talents, gifts that God gave them from the beginning is
Mm-hmm.
programmed in there. But for some reason or another, um, maybe it has been snuffed out. Maybe you can't
Mm-hmm.
see it. Maybe you can't feel it. Maybe you can't hear it anymore. And I can help you get there.
Oh,
I can
that
help
is
you get there. Yeah. So
fantastic.
I'm focusing on some leadership coaching and development, and I'm pretty excited about it.
That is.
That's a great question. And I just have to say, honestly, the people were just always in front of me because once I became a teacher, high school English teacher, loved it because I loved English and literature and all that good stuff. But I had to think about it. The reason why I probably loved literature and reading and writing and that kind of development is because literature is about people and their stories.
Oh.
And the best writers tap into a universal vein of human experience. And we learn about ourselves and humanity hundreds of years before us. Just like the folks hundreds of years after us are going to learn what we leave, and so it's just so attractive to me. And so as a teacher, I never wanted to become an administrator.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And for all the reasons that you
Mm-hmm.
hear, and at some point it just seemed like the next step that I should take, so I took it.
Yeah.
And I love the early years, and I agree, it's a very challenging job. I would not
Mm-hmm.
sugarcoat that job for any reason. Actually, even teaching education right now
Mm-hmm.
in our country in 2024 is very challenging. It is super challenging. Uh, we are sort of post-pandemic people,
Mm-hmm.
both on the adult side as far as staff and the family side and the kid side. Things are very different, and the inherent challenges of education have easily quadrupled, exponentially.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy job. But I have always found that you cannot go wrong when you live for the people and you keep them in mind and have them at the heart of everything that you do. I always love that quote by Maya Angelou, who would say, people may forget, you know, who you are, your name, that sort of thing, but they will never forget the way that you make them feel. And I really believe
Mm-hmm.
that. And um, when you step into my presence, you feel the power of God. And you may not know what that is, but it is that gift that God put inside me to connect with people, his creation, with humanity, and to give that love without saying it. Um, I just really find, yeah, I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it because I count it as such an honor to be able to connect with people and the ability to see them in that moment, but to see where they can go, and then have the tools to help them to get there. And so I think that's what kept me for that time and
Mm-hmm.
through the challenges is I'm working with God's creation.
Wow.
These are all his kids. And so what do they need in this moment? And what does the teacher need? How can I support that teacher? The teacher's on the front line with, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the students. And I hate to use front line language, right? Warfare. But if you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a warfare against a kid,
Right.
but against the challenges, against,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual influences,
Absolutely.
we can be so key in removing a lot of the burdens that today's children carry with them, oftentimes through no fault of their own.
That.
Candy, disobedience.
Honesty is the best policy.
Disobedience, let me tell you, honestly, I knew, and I like that you use the word season because, to
Mm-hmm.
everything, there absolutely is a season. But I don't think we view our lives that way necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
without reflection. I really knew, I probably should have ended my time there maybe about 5 years earlier,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I did feel a nudge, from God to say, okay, good job. Let's move to the next chapter.
Uh-huh.
But I allowed so many natural things to get in the way. Um, one of which, but Lord, I only have 5 years left. If I just hang on in here, I will, I can do the
Wow.
whole retirement thing. And,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's money is a practical need.
Yeah.
Um, but I allowed that to be one of the factors. And then also fear of the unknown.
For
That's
sure.
always a thing.
For sure.
And not trusting myself enough, not trusting myself enough and the gift that God put in me to take that leap, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy about that is, there's a price to pay for disobedience.
Oh, for sure.
There just is,
Absolutely.
you know, And I am very clear that the blessings that are surrounding me now and are yet to come have been delayed by my hand.
Mm-hmm.
So had I done what I heard, it would have been fine. I'd have been blessed. Things would have,
Absolutely.
I'm so clear on that. And so that's the power. I mean, that's the love of God. We get
Yes.
free will, we get to make choices. He prompts and he gives guidance and instructions, and in the end, we choose, right? And so with my hard-headed self, I chose a rockier path that needed to be. And I will say though, as a result, I went through some things that gave me some more insight into what
Mm.
women may be experiencing now in that disconnected or disassociated state that they may be in, where we're talking about living a victorious life, and there are just
Mm-hmm.
things that are in the way, that, I could help you see.
That's
Yes, yes. Gosh, it really is all about connection. And through the consequences of my decision, gosh, I learned so much and experienced at a deep level the ways that our lack of connection to God, to ourselves, to who we truly are. One of the things I'm a world traveler. I love to travel, and one thing I notice about American culture, which we are in, is when we go to other places and people ask, who are you? They get to know you. We lead with the work that we do, like
mm-hmm.
our job,
Absolutely.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. Nobody else in the world does that. You know, they talk about their passion for nature. They talk about how they love community service, or, you find out so many things about them. I keep my family's lineage. I'm the griot of my family, and I've done research, so many interesting things. And we lead with, I'm CEO of, Fortune 500 company. And it's so surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we're influenced by the culture that we're in, it takes a lot of unlearning. Well, you've got to recognize it first. And it
Absolutely.
helps when you go to different countries, it helps to see, like how they are and how you are. But I've had to do a lot of unlearning and a lot of reconnecting to my own origin. And so really I preach and teach that everything that I do, any of the consulting work and the coaching work that I do centers around connection. And you'd be surprised at the types of things that you are no longer connected to, even though you might say superficially you are
Mm-hmm.
at a surface level. But when we dig down, it's beautiful to watch that light turn on and those eyes get big, the way that we think about kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learning
Yes.
something new, or proverbial kid on Christmas morning. And that joy that comes from connecting to who you were created to be, the alignment that follows, such clarity, such clarity in every area of your life. And since we're all humans and we have to be on this human journey anyways, man, don't we want to experience it with
Absolutely.
clarity?
Yes.
With the peace that happens in your mind, in your spirit, in your body when all things are aligned, right? So part of those consequences for the delayed
Mm-hmm.
action,
Mm-hmm.
really, I had a physical response. I had, a couple health scares as a result of continuing in a situation and environment that I was supposed to leave. And see, that kind of stuff is not just happenstance.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, there's a reason for it. There's no coincidences,
Absolutely.
you know. And so I wouldn't speak that over anybody, but let's think about these migraines that you constantly have. Let's think about how if you sit still for 1 minute, you fall asleep. let's think about how you always have heartburn, or, um, there are just so many things we experience in our lives that we chalk up to. This is just part
Mm-hmm.
of living.
Yes.
That is not necessarily just part of living, but stem from areas in our lives that are perhaps unexamined, unsubmitted to God. And if we can just pause and connect, man, the benefits are super amazing and super surprising.
Oh my
Super
gosh.
surprising. Yeah.
To say. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're right. Like, we're not leaving anybody out. This applies to men as well. However, I think it is a special time for women. And I think it has a lot to do with just the way that we are socialized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and part of the mistake I made in my years of service, my years of formal service to people through the career that I had, is I gave some
Mm-hmm.
more, give, about you, it's about you, it's about you, and neglected
Yes.
me.
Yes.
I know there are a lot of mothers
Yes.
out there who do that,
Yes.
right, as well. And we don't realize that our best service to others is service to ourself first,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in that way, we've got this loop between us, us and God, that vertical connection, and we're able to be a constant and consistent source of, name it, whatever it is that
Right.
God places here to do.
Yes.
And in that is that peace and that joy. Like, you can't buy peace.
No.
And we live in a time where it's hard to find peace outside of God.
Mm.
And
Oh
so
wow.
that joy that you talked about, that's not an emotion, you know, it's a knowing, it's a being, S- Also, when you were talking about that, I just saw it also as an inoculation
Yes.
against
Yes.
all of the things, the energies, the things that are in our modern world that are siphoning peace away from ourselves, from our relationships, from our families, from our God-given calling, And so I do have a special heart for women in that regard, in that if nobody, and if I may say, Black women in particular, because the socialization of Black women in our country is even uh, more powerful, or has more of an impact,
Mm-hmm.
because of the history of our country,
Absolutely. Yeah.
regarding racism and oppression. And so we have further internalized that we just push through
Yes.
no matter what,
Yes.
no matter what your body is telling you, no matter, and to the benefit of any institution that we're a part of, any relationship that we're a
Yes.
part of,
Yes.
any project that we're a part of, like, we're going to bring it.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
We're definitely going to bring it, and we're going to bring it in excellence. There's a cost to that
Absolutely.
that we often cannot see because we're just in that train, in that train.
Mm-hmm.
And that was both a powerful and painful revelation for me, um, as a part of the unlearning that I've been doing
Yeah.
for these past few
Yeah.
years.
That.
Let me tell you, and let me tell you, and the thing about that wall, hitting that wall, is because of the culture we live in and the way we've been socialized, is now, once you hit that wall, and now things may not be working the way they used to work, which is why you push harder and you're not getting the results that you used to get. So you try to do more, right? So now it makes you question every single thing that you know about yourself.
Absolutely.
And so you take it as a personal deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me, in education, we talk about not telling the kids that, oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're smart. Because second grade smart is different than fourth grade smart because the skills build and the challenges build. So if you just tell a kid they're smart and they're, burning through second grade with, all high
Yes,
marks,
yes,
but then they get to fourth grade and they hit a really challenging content area and they don't get it. So does that mean now that they're not smart?
oh,
So the kid takes a hit and it hits
yes,
their psyche like, I'm not smart. And so then that mindset that they use goes into every single part of their sense of who they are as a learner
mm-hmm,
and what they're capable of.
yes,
And so instead, we talk about having a growth mindset that, good job. You know, yes, I got an A on this. Yes, you got an A on it because you studied and you put the effort
mm-hmm,
in and because you put the work in, you were able to produce it. So to help kids make a connection between the effort, learning the material, and then their ability to produce versus, well, I've always been told I'm smart all my life, so shouldn't I just, I can just do it.
mm-hmm,
And the difference in that growth mindset and a fixed mindset is I wanted to carry that over to what we're talking about right
right,
now,
yes,
because it's not the end. When you hit that wall, it's not the end.
exactly,
It is time for you to stop and, okay, I need to there needs to be let me
yes,
sit myself down, as your mom said. When you sit
yes,
down somewhere, sit down,
yes,
get quiet, and you need to really reflect on what is going on in your life. You've got to take the time, like you said, we don't take the time to do any introspection,
yes,
to allow God time to show us what's going on, to commune with the Spirit, to make ourselves priority in a way that will help reveal
yes,
what's going on and what the seed of you hitting the wall is, because we don't want to you hurt yourself when you hit the wall.
yes,
And you also make when you start having that self-talk about, okay, now I'm questioning everything I've ever done because
mm-hmm,
I've always been able to. Why
yes,
can't I do it now? What's wrong with me? And it's not necessarily that something is wrong with you. There's a shift that has to take place.
yes,
There's
yes,
a perspective that has to change. There's a connection that has to be strengthened and mindfully, and observed so that you no longer go down that path, but you go down this path to a different result. And so these are there, and you've got to remember whose you are and who you are. And since it is my belief that most, 90% of folks walking the planet don't know who they are, that percentage is probably a whole lot higher.
yes,
We're vulnerable to the messages of the world, to the messages of the culture, the attacks of the culture. And little by little, that thing will wear you down,
absolutely.
but it doesn't have to.
Right.
And you are super vulnerable, right? So
Absolutely.
now you're weak in mind, you're
Yes.
weak in spirit, you're weak in body,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
There are um, illnesses and diseases that are said to, what's the medical term? Um, Run in the way that we segment the population by race, right?
Yes.
Race or ethnicity.
Yes.
Like this population, they tend to have that. This
Yes. Yes.
population tend to
Yes.
have that.
Yes.
That stuff is trackable to some of the mindsets that we have
Yes.
because of the environments that we live in and the
Yes.
culture that we live in,
Yes.
right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
just do an easy one, high blood pressure in the Black community.
Yes.
There are reasons behind
Yes.
that we can control,
Yes. Absolutely.
you know,
Got it.
not our fault in its origin,
Yes.
but now our responsibility to handle. and to navigate. And we have the tools to be able to do that,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
But when you wear yourself down, like you said, now you are just so vulnerable to so many things that you don't wish for your life to happen. And you find yourself trying to box your way out of, let me put that fire out, let me put that fire out, let me put that fire out. And talk about hitting the wall. I mean, it's insidious what could happen, you know.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be that. We've got to put something different in our mouths. We
Mm-hmm.
are victorious. A victorious life does belong to us. And there are things we can do, actions we can take, belief systems we can shift and strengthen to help us live that life that at one point you remember dreaming about and you remember knowing was yours and you were excited about growing into it, and excited about what was next for you. When was the last time you thought about your future and a big old smile came at your face?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or you thought about what's over the horizon? Heck, when you think about next week, what does your face look like?
Absolutely.
That kind of joy belongs to us.
Absolutely. When in essence, you're just hurried.
Right. And if you think about that, even physiologically, okay, so think about when you're hurried, right? You breathe more shallow. So you aren't taking deep breaths. Your heart rate is probably up. You're working your deodorant, and you're moving at a breakneck, breathless pace to move inches forward, right? But when you don't get enough oxygen to your brain, you don't ha and I'm not a medical person at all. I just happen to know this piece. This is
Yeah.
information that's widely, known or available, is you can't think as deeply or creatively without the oxygen in your brain.
Yes.
A lot of schools have, we've adopted a lot of mindful practices and breathing techniques that just oxygenate your brain and your body. And when you have more oxygen in your brain, your ideas are better,
Mm-hmm.
right? You breathe better. You've got your circulatory system moving around, right? And perhaps the answer to what you've been searching for is there all along,
Yes.
right? And it's a better quality answer or response or action that you're going to take versus when you move too fast, you make mistakes,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the cultures that I visit, sort of Caribbean culture. And I have some friends there, and one of the things that they say a lot to me, I don't hear them saying it too much to anybody else, but is relax yourself. Like if we were doing something and I'm trying to think 3, 4 steps ahead, well, when are we gonna do it? Relax yourself. Just relax yourself and let it flow. And it flows every single time. And that's our culture, our American culture, the
Yes.
American culture
Yes.
does not relax yourself. It is,
No.
it's not, it's all about the hurry. It's all about the rush. It's all about the more, 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 more. And do we feel like we have more? Do we feel that we're on top of things? We don't feel that way.
No.
And so there's some unlearning, some breathing, some sitting back, some resting that we can learn to do. Um, and one of the things that I'm learning right now, I just can't believe it, that I don't have to overwork to be productive.
Mind blowing.
As a former principal who all you do is this and it's 24/7, because even if it's the weekend, those are still your staff members, those are still your kids.
Yeah.
If something happens in the community, it impacts the school. It's non-stop. The weight is always there. So the idea that I can relax into God's rhythm for me for the day
Mm.
and accomplish that thing and let that accomplishment ripple out, the way that, when you throw a pebble in the water and those ripples
Yes.
to accomplish the thing that his word through me was sent to accomplish.
Wow.
It is the most
Amazing.
beautiful thing. And I find myself reflecting often like, how did I do that for 30 years? Like, oh, you know, uh, Wow. God
Absolutely.
kept me, you know,
Yes.
like I said in that season of disobedience, you know, I felt it. But wow. So how much more can the quality of our lives be improved when we relax ourselves, relax into God's plan for us, relax into hearing the voice and the guidance of God's spirit and enjoying that alignment and that quality of life. I want that for everybody. Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah. And you know, if we are, you know, I often think of us as we're humans, humanity is God's crowning creation. Like the stuff that he created is good, it's great, it's wonderful, right? But we're the top. We're the
Yes.
crowning creation.
Yes.
And do you feel like that on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
Do you operate like that on a daily basis? And if the answer is no, and for those of us watching, I know your answer was no. You know, I mean, we need to pause on that. You mean I am God's highest creation, made in his image
Yes.
and his likeness, but I'm struggling from bed to bed to, you know, shower to work to commute to dinner to, you
Yes.
know, it feels like a
Yes.
struggle.
Yes.
Something is out of alignment, and it does not have to be. We
Absolutely.
have power over that. Well, you know, what's great is, you know, as a principal, if you think of the work of a principal as like a pie, you know, it's got all these slices in there. And one slice is, you know, operations. Is there toilet paper in the building? Another slice is, you know, um, recruiting enough staff members, you know. Um, the slices that I've always loved the most in my education career, both as a teacher, as a trainer, as a curriculum designer, as a principal, is those interactions with the people, with staff members, the professional development, you know, making sure that people get what they need to become the best versions of themselves, to be able to provide what their gift and what their service is, you know, in a way that brings them joy and professional satisfaction and personal satisfaction because you're walking out your mission for life, you know. Um, and there are just so many factors that disrupt that alignment,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for people in all industries, you know, in every walk of life. So I really feel called to I can work with anybody and have worked with anybody. Um, but I feel a sweet spot right now for Black women leaders,
Mm-hmm.
educational leaders, professional leaders, leaders in any capacity, because there's like I said, there's a sweet season for them right now where it calls for rest, it calls for discovery, uncovering, it calls for it calling upon joy, you know, I want to say a re-remembering, which is not really a word, but a
Absolutely.
remembering who you are, whose you are, you know, what you were put here to do that just is a strengthening and an empowerment and a building up, you know. And so I find myself being called to those spaces to be able to serve people in that way. And that feels very exciting. And so that's the slice of pie that I've always loved the most. And so looky here, now that I've, you know, done what I was supposed to do maybe a
Yes.
few years ago, I get to do this full time now? Okay. You know, so much that goes along with
Yeah.
that, but that's the gist of it, that finding the power of connection, teaching about that power of connection and community. And so I'm so excited to explore that.
That's
Yeah, please
Yeah.
reach out, say hello. So happy to serve you in any way I can. And I've got some exciting things on the horizon that if you want to be placed on my email list,
Okay.
that would be great. And I'll be happy to include you in that community so that you get things hot off the press as they come.